the U.S. is actively involved in like deception campaigns where we put out like fake blueprints and stuff. So China was all stoked because like, look, we built this aircraft carrier built off the U.S. blueprints, and then it fell in half. and like we're like, okay, was that one of the fake blueprints that it just like, because legit that was one of them, right? Like one will blow up when you turn it on, one will break in half when you put it on the water, and that's what happened. Hilarious, right? So when you look at what China and Russia are capable of in terms of like EW or electronic warfare, they do have the capabilities. Will they attack the U.S. with those capabilities, right? That's the big question. Who knows? Who knows? Given current geopolitical events and things that are going on in the world, it's a possibility. There is an escalation of force happening right now. Like we were talking about at the beginning, just willy-nilly, like the Iranian president is now dead due to a helicopter crash. They immediately
and his chief
blamed
foreign minister.
Yep.
The two of them.
Immediately blamed Israel and the CIA, which who knows if we were involved or not. There's a lot of TS stuff out there. Who knows? Now, when it comes to St. George, right, let's tie this back in from a global aspect down to, hey, we're local here in St. George. Yeah, dude, like it's not a bad idea to be ready, to have an extra week's worth of food and water for your family just in case. And that's not anything that people need to be upset about. Like, oh, I don't want to be a prepper. Oh, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. No, dude, like what's the point? Like, are you going to get so far into it that it ruins your life? I disagree with that. And there are people out there where that's all they think about is the end of the world.
Or all they post about on
social
Instagram.
media. Yeah. I mean, dude, is it going to happen? Most likely not. Right. But at the same time, like, why not just have a little bit? What's it going to hurt? Right. You don't have to tell people, but go out, dude, and buy a week's worth of food, please. Because guess what? Let's say something happens. Let's say it's not even a terrorist attack where it's a potential outside threat. Let's say it's an earthquake.
Yeah.
Like we're supposed to have along the Wasatch Front because we're some like 400,000 years overdue for it. And all of a sudden, like we can't get trucks from up north or we can't get anything from Vegas. And even then, yeah, we've got 3 days worth of food. Now, the good news is we don't live in New York. New York scared me so bad when I was over,
People
dude.
living on top of
Bro,
each other.
there's 8 million people in that city, and it's literally just bridges that take you over to freaking New Jersey and all this. I'm like, this is miserable, man.
Bridges
What
and
if
tunnels,
we get nuked?
yeah.
Because we are a freaking target, right?
Yeah.
So here, like, there are a lot of resources where people are a little bit more prepared, I would say, as a community than other places, which is awesome. And, you know, like one of the things is like the LDS Church.
Yeah, we were talking about this. And this is where I was growing up in Salt Lake. Because I was an LDS, I didn't really realize that all my neighbors around me were all like prepped out. But then as I got older, and then when I came back to St. George, I was like, man, this is actually pretty awesome how organized, you know, just the church as a body, they are set up in a really organized fashion for if something goes horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is really cool, man, because when you look at like the fact that they appoint certain people to be like, hey, bro, if something goes down, like you're it.
Yeah, you're the guy.
You're the guy that's in charge.
Yeah.
To make sure that the people in your community are taken care of. Like, that's pretty dang cool, man. Like, whatever your opinion is on the church, whatever, it's like, hey, man, they're actually a little bit more prepared than your average bear for an event of that caliber. Now, here's the things that my mind goes to. It's like, okay, let's give ourselves a scenario where we've got 72 hours where we have no outside help, right? Because I mean, there's going to be certain things that happen at the state level. The National Guard is going to get activated. The National Guard has a unit called the HERF, or the Homeland Response Force, that are specific to these type of disasters and helping as they need. Now, but that only goes so far, right? There's other things where locally we're going to be concerned with. They're going to activate emergency services. They're going to do all this other stuff. But when we're talking about health earlier, right? If everything goes out for 72 hours, like, do you have what you need medications wise? Do you have what you need food and water wise to like last that 72-hour period? Or what if it's a week? All of a sudden, once you get into the week, dude, things get really hairy. And we have examples of this happening, man. Texas. Let's look at Hurricane Sandy. I mean, dude, people were like going out and shooting each other in the street after a week for a can of beans, right?
Yeah, it doesn't like
sketchy.
We digress into chaos, like absolute barbarism,
right?
And we have tons of examples. It's like a fully Western society or community,
right?
And then all of a sudden, in just a blink of an eye, it's like just horrible chaos.
And that wasn't nationwide, right? That was so local to that one portion of the East Coast or whatever. So there's a lot to think about.
I feel ill prepared to where, like, me living in this community, I don't, truthfully, like, in this moment right now, if something like that were to happen, I'm legitimately just like looking to my friends, like the people that are immediately around me, my parents, both sets of parents, my in-laws and my parents, all four of them, they're both at an age to where they're gonna need the support. It's not like I can go to them to get the support. It's they're gonna need the support, right? Yeah. And we have a huge retired population, right? To where I just can't help but think, if I feel unprepared as connected or as at least engaged in the community as I am, and I feel ill prepared to, if something like this were to happen, like where to go and like who to organize, I can't imagine there's not more people out there that either they haven't thought about it or they're feeling the same way I am. Yeah. So it's like, what do I do?
Right. And it goes so much deeper than just food and water too, right? Like, let's say it happens in the winter and we don't have power. Right. It gets cold here in the desert, right? It's either super hot here or it's super cold. Yeah. So do you have enough blankets? Do you have any type of light source? Do you have anything where you can charge a phone if there is service to try to get information from the outside world? Do you have like a small crank radio? Like all this stuff's like really available. And like there was a big run on it during COVID because people started to realize like, oh my gosh, dude, I actually am unprepared. I mean, dude, look at toilet paper, right? I don't know about you guys. I had to use my hand for like 2 weeks. I'm kidding. But dude, it was just like absurd where a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, dude, like this is an actual thing that could happen. Yeah. Let's get ready for the next one around. So I do think it's like kind of on the back of everybody's mind. But at the same time, like as who's put their money where their mouth is and gone out and bought the extra food and gone out and got some type of container for water where you actually, hey, are you checking that every year? Because guess what? Water can go bad if you've introduced bacteria or whatever else to it. Do you have a water filter? I mean, dude, I'm a huge fan of like, I've got a big Berkey that I can grab and go, and filter water out from the little stream by my house if I absolutely needed to. So having all of that stuff in mind is definitely good. Will it happen? Hopefully not, right? It's not like I'm not on here trying to peddle doomsday, like it's gonna happen, you gotta be ready. But dude, why not? Why not?
So those emergency services, right? Like it's like FEMA, like in some of those hurricanes, like I heard stories where FEMA, they didn't have water. Yeah. And then FEMA didn't have the ability to organize and get water to them either, right? And I think a lot of people look up and like, oh no, there's somebody here to help me. Dude, there's going to be somebody here to help me.
It's a big issue, right? And there's this really cool company called...
How do I feel confident that there are people around here in this community that they will help me?
Oh, for sure.
Like, I just don't know. Who do I look to?
Yourself, to be honest. And that's what I was just going to say is there's a company out there called 90 Seconds Out. I follow them on Instagram. They're really cool. And they have a big old flag that says, expect to self-rescue, right? Because at the end of the day, like, ultimately, you're your own responsibility.
Yeah, nobody's coming.
I want you to tell me that there's this really organized situation where I'm going to be just fine.
Bro, I've been in the National Guard for 11 years. I could tell you, like, they're not that.
Nobody's coming to save you.
I mean, again, I feel bad.
They're great
because I love the organization. They're great,
organized in a way to be able to do.
Look at how, like, the size of the population. The National Guard is an organization, and now look at the size of the population. It just doesn't. The math doesn't math. Yeah, it doesn't math. The math doesn't math to math.
Math's not checking out.
Oh man, I'm having a hard time. With words.
Feel getting tongue-tied.
Yeah. It's the ghost.
So
the Alpha GPC.
It's the ghost. So expect to self-prepare. Is that what you said?
No, expect to self-rescue.
Self-prepare.
But I like that. We'll coin our own phrase.
We're off track. So
that could be your new company slogan. Self-prepare.
Self-prepare.
Expect. You get it. So
it's spreading.
As an individual, I've made preparations for myself. Now, how do I? Where would I plug into? Right. So we're in the suck. We're in the middle of it. It's 3 days in. We still don't. We're maybe rolling power outages, but there's no. Do you think we should get out of town?
No, because where are you going to go, and what does that look like?
Well, yeah. Right? Like, what if Vegas is fine?
Hey, if Vegas is fine, like if you got a place to go, but like guess what? If all of us are just like, well, I guess we'll just get up and go to Vegas, guess what we're going to do? We're going to overwhelm Vegas. Right. Right? So if there's emergency services set up there where they're like, hey man, we're prepped. If you guys can get out of town, come here. Let's go.
Would I go to the local ward? Do I go to the stake? do I like show up and say, hey, I'm here to help?
That's
like, is that what the situation
I
is set up here?
anticipate seeing, right? Because again, like hopefully the mayor and other things are going to happen, especially at a state level, right? Things are going to be activated up north. Governor Cox is going to say, okay, I'm declaring a state of emergency. I'm activating the National Guard because we need to handle this. There should be points of contact set up, liaisons or PAOs, public affairs officers, that are giving information to say, hey, this is what we have set up. Here's where you can go. This is what we need from you to make this happen, right? Now, again, it depends on the resources. And there's that term I used earlier, mutual aid. Like if something really bad happens down here in Utah and we as a National Guard or state government are like, hey, we need help. The government, the federal government will be like, okay, cool. Yeah, we'll help you out. That's what should happen, right? I mean, look at what happened was it Hurricane Harvey? What's Katrina? The one? No, the one that hit Puerto Rico.
I don't know.
A couple of years back.
Yeah, I know. I know which one you're talking about, but I don't know the names of them.
What was it?
Wasn't Katrina.
No,
Ted.
I don't. It was some weird name.
Stephen.
Puerto Rico got hit by a hurricane, Stephen. Now look at like what happened, right? The federal government was like, okay, because guess what? Puerto Rico has its own National Guard units, I think. Don't quote me on that, actually. I know I went to basic with a lot of Puerto Rico guys. Don't know if they've got their own National Guard, but as a territory,
Hurricane Maria.
Oh, it was Maria.
Maria.
17, 18 maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, so they had, because they get some federal aid, I guess.
They got a lot of federal aid.
Okay.
Right? I mean, that was the federal government's like, yeah, we're going to step up. We're going to help you. They sent a whole bunch of stuff with water. Now, again, the whole thing got foobarred, right? Because they had waters on water cases sitting in an airport hangar that nobody knew was there because local government had somehow like dropped the ball, right? That stuff happens. And it's dumb. Like, was there politics involved? I'm sure. Whatever. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, there was assistance provided. And it's really going to be up to state and local leaders to say, we're going to distribute this as needed. And again, the National Guard is going to play a role in that. Local agencies are going to play a role in that. State government's going to play a role in that. I think we'll be pretty okay here.
What's the hierarchy of chain of command? So you end up with we have the governor and the mayor, and then is the National Guard going to step in outside of the mayor, and the mayor is going to be organizing emergency services locally, so like just a police, SWAT, right? All of those things, the county level, or is it like commissioners? It seems like what ends up happening is because we've have all these different chains of command that are all separate. It seems like the reason we get these gaps is because
they don't talk to each
there's not an organized, emergency chain of command. Is that true, or is there?
Yes, and I think it'll be better here. And because we are a smaller community where we do have some guys that are really like pretty squared away. Again, we have like the Washington County Sheriff,
right? The sheriff,
and he's going to be really the big one that's in charge of like the local resources. And then you have the National Guard. Now, the National Guard, we specifically answer to the governor and the president, right? So there's two different types of orders. I don't have to get into a rabbit hole on this, but you have Title 10 and Title 32. If we're activated via the state, we're going to be under the control of Governor Cox, unless something happens where the federal government comes in and federalizes us and says, okay, guess what? You're working for me specifically right now. And I did this a number of times, actually, when I was a part of the California National Guard. We were living in Sacramento for a number of years right after we graduated from college. All of the like the Paradise Fire, you remember that one? That one that ripped through the town?
Yep.
Yeah,
I
was on ground the day after it went through the town, dude. Like it was wild. Gosh. I was in a Humvee and we're like, it looked like an apocalypse movie. Yeah. There were vehicles rolled over with bodies inside of it. I'm like, oh my gosh, man. And you can't see like 6 to 7 feet in front of your face because the smoke is so bad. So that was like a state emergency, right? And we were activated as a National Guard to go and help out. And what we did is we supplemented the local sheriff, the Butte County Sheriff's Office, and we were working on search and extraction teams where we're going through the buildings looking for bodies, we're looking for survivors, you name it. And we were also there doing distribution operations. We were doing decon operations. We were doing entry control points. We were looking for looters, and it all depends on the unit, right? Like the National Guard is an incredible resource. Like it really is. We have so many different types of units. Now down here in St. George, we've got, 2 specific units of the armory here. We've got the Triple Deuce, which is a field artillery unit. And then we have my unit, which is 141MI. And both of us have in the past taken on that HERF responsibility where we have guys that are trained to do natural disaster relief type of stuff. On top of that, we do riot stuff. Like, so there are soldiers down here that are ready, like at a moment's notice to be like, boom, that notification goes out. It's like, get to the armory, get your stuff on, let's go.